This time on In the Workshop, I'm going to have a better look at my sanding station, a project from a few years ago. But before I get to that, I've got to answer the most common question. It's not a question actually, it's a comment on last week's project, the ultimate sanding block that I call it. People have commented that in order for it to stay together, I should put a dowel through it or put a screw through it. And they seem to be missing the point that once this goes on and the taper locks in, friction keeps it on. It doesn't slide off. I can sand pretty rigorously with this and it won't come loose. It works in a very similar way to how the Morse taper in a drill press or a lathe works, in that once it goes in, the dovetail locks it in place. Add to that the extra friction you'll get from where the sandpaper touches the bottom of the handle. I've had a couple people make this sanding block and they said that once they got it on and pushed it in tight, the handle went too far. How do I fix that? Well, the easiest fix is to take a slip of paper or cardboard, fold it up, take your sanding block apart, put the slip of paper on top of the dovetail, and then put the thing back together. And you slide that ahead and that'll tighten the taper dovetail up enough for it to work properly. Another fix is to take, this would be a more permanent fix, would be to take a piece of veneer and glue it in on the inside of the handle, similar to the way this piece of paper is in here now. Another suggestion was to put some sort of cork or pad on there. As you can see in my original one here, I took this black spongy stuff that you put on the bottom of things to cushion them. One of the things about having the cushion on there is that it will conform a little bit more to curves and stuff like that. It has some give. If you're trying to sand something absolutely flat, I recommend not putting anything on the bottom at all. Make sure that your plywood that you use for the sole of the sander is absolutely flat. A little more than a year ago, I made a video on these things right here, and these are what I call miter clamping dogs. I've had a few recent emails on this regarding the geometry. What are the angles that you cut them at? It's very simple actually. The way you want to have this set up is that when you clamp your dogs on, they apply force right across the joint. As you can see, I've clamped up the joint and I've got a clamp here holding this one on. I've got a clamp here holding this one on. And then this clamp puts pressure right straight across the joint. Here I have a 135-degree angle clamped up, and what that consists of are two 22.5-degree cuts, and the miter clamping dogs are cut at the same angle. You can see that this is parallel to that, so that when you clamp it with the clamp that goes across, your pressure goes straight across the joint like that and holds it tight together. Miter clamping dogs are so simple to make, you can make them from just about anything, and they really come in handy when you want to clamp up miters like that in places where it's really difficult to do it. It's not really a picture frame type thing, because a picture frame you're probably going to want to use a band clamp, but anywhere where you have an open-ended miter joint like this that you have to get together, it's perfect for those. Now it's time for the main event, and that is to show in a bit more detail my sanding station here. And it's one of the very first projects that I did on my website, and I didn't get very detailed with the project, not like I do now. If I had my time back to do this project again, it probably would have been maybe a 3-page article going into a lot more detail. I also made a video. I think I made 2 videos. They were terrible. Lighting was terrible. Acting was terrible. You know, all the usual stuff. So I thought I would do this now just to hit the high points of the build. The sanding station was made primarily for this disc sander, a place to put it, along with the spindle sander. The disc sander is homemade and from around about the same time. A lot of times I get asked, what is the dust collection on this? And here it is. Basically, it's not built into the sander itself. It's actually part of the table. There's a slot cut in the top of the table where the sander bolts down. The dust comes off the disc and goes down into this chamber, and connected to the chamber is a vacuum hose right over here. The vacuum hose is a normal 2-inch one from a shop vac, and it just plugs into a hole right there tightly. I can take it off from here, and then I can put it on the back of the spindle sander when I'm using that tool. The dust is collected into an old shop vac that I have put in here permanently. It's actually wired into a box here on the side, and there's a separate switch that turns it off and on. To empty it, I just pull it out, disconnect the hose, take the lid off, and then I can dump the dust out and clean the filter. The shop vac is a fairly tight fit inside the opening, and at the bottom here I've got some of that gym flooring to help to reduce some of the noise from vibration, and that holds the shop vac in place. On the other side of the sanding station is the spindle sander on a lower platform, and the way this is arranged is that this table height and that table height are exactly the same. So if I have a longer piece of wood that I need to sand here, I can let it come over here. This won't get in the way. And the same way there. Also, the sander itself is angled so that it will clear this sander. To be honest, it would be better if these two were on separate stands alone, but I haven't really had a problem with this as long as I've had this, and that's nearly 4 years now. Now, beneath the spindle sander, there's some storage for sheets of sandpaper. This moves from side to side, so I have space on either side as well. Beneath that, I have some general storage. Here I keep the belt sander part of the spindle sander in here, which I almost never use. Beneath that, I have individual compartments for 5-inch discs for my random orbit sander. About a year ago, I got a new sander, and it takes 6-inch discs, so I'll have to revise this at some point in the future. Also, there's a little bit of space back here for spindles. And in the bottom drawer, there's general storage. I keep my sandpaper cutter right here, some extra spindles, my old random orbit sander, and an old pad sander. For more information on this project, you can go to my website. There's a link in the description to the article I wrote on this. It also has the original videos from when I first built it. So that's it for this one. Tomorrow I have a new video, and that will be on making this marking gauge. As always, I hope you liked it, and thanks for watching. Well, this week I'm going to be talking about bullshit, and more bullshit, and a bit more about the bullshit. So stay tuned for more bullshit. Let's see how fast we can go around in a circle. I'm getting dizzy. I'm getting dizzy. Whoa.